which is, how come there was never any fully aquatic dinosaurs? Now, if your first thought is, there was, then I can say with certainty that you are a dino normie. Because in reality, anything you think is a water dinosaur is not. Not this, not that, nor even these. And for the most part, what people think to have been water dinosaurs were in reality marine reptiles who were not very related. No, in the entire history of dinosaurs, we are not aware of a single fully aquatic species. And to me, that's very strange when you really break it down. I mean, here are the facts. This group has been around for over 233 million years, had a long stint as the top dogs of the planet, lived on every single continent, Antarctica included, widely varied in size, achieved flight, and all combined are responsible for well over 10,000 species. And yet, none of them made it to the water full time. Meanwhile, other groups like mammals have gone terrestrial, airborne, and fully aquatic, despite being around for a shorter amount of time and being less diverse when birds are included. So, what exactly gives? Why did dinosaurs fail to overcome this so-called barrier? And to answer that question, it might be best to actually start with how close they came or come. And looking at birds, even just the extant ones, we can see that they're not really that far off, with there being many kinds of what are called water birds, which are essentially any bird that lives on or in water for a large part of their lives. And this includes some classics such as pelicans, ducks, swans, gulls, the list goes on. And across the board, we can see that certain adaptations generally take place, with the most common traits being legs adapted for diving underwater, extensive webbing between the toes in order to increase surface area, and then changes in beak morphology to adapt to more watery diets. And among this group, you can break things down even further through the sea or marine birds, who, as their name puts it, are those that have become adapted to marine environments. And like water birds as a whole, they greatly vary in niche and specializations. But again, we do also see some interesting features that are widespread, such as salt glands, which are located in their beaks and help them expel excess salt, allowing them to both eat and drink really salty stuff. And some have even given up on flying in exchange for being great swimmers, like of course the penguins, who do spend half their lives in water. But again, half is not 100%. And then on the other side, there are those like the great wandering albatross that still fly and are really good at it, but simply live on top of water for much of their lifespans, not landing on land for sometimes years apart. Yet again, they don't do this full time, and they live on the water, not underwater. An important distinction. And so do they count as water dinosaurs? I think not. And while all the modern lineages of seabirds evolved after the KT extinction, there were also Cretaceous groups of them, like the Hesperorniths. So in other words, they've been a thing for a minute, and while coming close, no cigar. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at the more interesting group, no offense birds, the non-avian dinosaurs. And while the vast majority seem to be averse to the water, there has actually been a handful of species and families who were actually pretty good swimmers, and in some cases, possibly even semi-aquatic. Of course, the best known group that fits the bill were the Spinosaurids, a clade or family of usually large theropods that honestly could have passed for crocs on legs thanks to their odd adaptations. Now, each differed a bit in their own way, but some strong signs that this lot liked to be in, or at least around water, included nostrils situated far back along the skull in order to avoid water seepage, cone-shaped teeth that were suspiciously well designed for catching slippery fish, and in certain cases, unusually large and powerful tails that could have possibly assisted in swimming. And get this, at times, these tails were only loosely connected to the rest of the body, a trait not seen in other dinosaurs, but rather in fish. Furthermore, isotopic analysis and the simple fact that most bones are found in regions with abundant water reflect that this family didn't stray too far from aquatic sources. And therefore, we know Spinos were unusual, but there is still a lot of debate about just how much time they really spent in water, with some saying they only stuck along the coasts and waited, whereas others argue that a few would have been semi-aquatic creatures. And while Spinosaurids have definitely taken the reins as far as representing the dinosaurs in the Water Olympics, there are actually other interesting, less reported cases of water-loving dinos. Take the Halscaraptor, for example, a late Cretaceous non-avian dino from Mongolia that as far as we can tell was a dromaeosaur. Think Velociraptor, albeit even smaller, with most being the size of a mallard duck. And it possessed various anatomical features that you would not expect to find on a raptor, namely small forelimbs that were flipper-like. And you know what flippers are good for, besides dancing? Swim, swim. Additionally, the skeleton also possessed a short tail that shifted its center of gravity to the front, which makes it more useful for swimming than walking, while it then also had a long neck and sensory neurons concentrated in its snout, presumably being there to help it feel for vibrations in the water, and thus leading to the idea that this was a fish eater, something that was also backed up by its teeth, which are curved backwards and highly numerous. In other words, being designed to help trap small fish caught within. And another thing that is commonly agreed upon is that Mother Nature is struggling. Animals are going extinct left and right. I mean, we're literally in the middle of a mass extinction event called the Holocene extinction, also known as the Anthropocene extinction, which, if you couldn't tell from the name alone, is caused by, yeah, yours truly, us.